This is the Haulin Assets podcast where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. Welcome, everybody, to the Haulin Assets podcast. This is episode number 67. I am Craig, and over there he is Chris. Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Craig?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well, actually.
Good.
It's we're in the middle of Christmas break. Everything's quiet. Everybody's spending time with their families. We're doing a little podcasting. It's a nice day.
It is a nice day.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, broadly speaking, we're going to be talking about personal finances, which I'm sure, a lot of people, they turn up their car stereo. Ooh, personal finances. No, but this is actually, this is going to be a good one. I hope you hang in there for it. It's going to be a lot of really good tips in this episode. But before we get started, I do want to remind everybody, please go to HaulinAssetsLLC.com for full show notes for this and past episodes. You can also comment there, and we can address your questions and concerns from those show notes pages. You can also find us on Facebook and do the same thing there. Don't forget, if you enjoy what we do here on this show, then please go to your favorite Apple podcast or whatever service you use to listen to this and give us a 5-star review. Chris.
Craig.
Okay. What do we want to talk about besides personal finances? Do you have any stories from the road?
I did.
How's the new truck thing going on?
I've got a new truck.
You did?
I did.
Oh, good.
And I've actually went out on the road a whole about... I did a little over 100 miles on it. So,
slow
big
down.
deal here. Yeah.
So you're really back at it.
I'm really back at it. So it was an interesting experience. New truck to me, not brand new, but it's got a little less than 400,000 miles on it. But it was a 50-mile down, pick up a load in the new trailer too, and bring it back to the Salt Lake area. And I just wanted to, test the new equipment, see how it went.
And, of course, everybody's laughing at you saying 100 miles is no test, Chris.
Well, it's better than nothing. But yeah, it's a couple hours worth of work, right? Not much these days.
So anything different from the other truck, or did you go with something kind of similar?
It's pretty similar, except for it's an automatic.
Oh, ooh.
And you wouldn't think, I'd never driven an automatic semi before, and you wouldn't think it'd take much getting used to or much training. But I was a mess, Craig. I was a mess.
I'm imagining it now. Did you keep trying to hit the wrong gears or buttons or whatever?
Everything is simple except for when you're going under 3 miles an hour. At least for me. I mean, everything else works how you would expect it. But for some reason, me trying to figure out how to make that thing go slow was a challenge. And so what had ended up happening is, I go to back up to the trailer the first time to hook the trailer on, and it's either like it's in gear, or it's either out of gear, or it's in gear going 2 or 3 miles an hour. So,
awesome.
Just picture me trying to back up to the trailer, slowly ease into hooking onto the trailer. No, I was just slamming into everything. I'm like, this brand new trailer, just this big, huge crash getting it hooked up. So I get it hooked up and drive down, and I'm trying to back into the dock. And so same thing, you get up and maybe other people can back a trailer at 3 miles an hour better than I can, but trying to do a 90-degree back into a hole at just kind of easing it in and taking things slow. I typically like to go slow. It just wasn't happening for me.
That is excellent.
Yeah. So I slammed into the dock as hard as I've ever slammed into the dock. I just couldn't figure out how to make it work. So I need to be trained. I need to find somebody that's has a little bit more of automatic experience than me. And what in the world am I doing wrong? It's like I'm a rookie all over again.
Well, I was just going to say, you've had Mike driving for Haulin Assets now for 8 or 9 months, something like that. Yeah. And I feel like maybe that is what has been missing from the show, is just horribly embarrassing Chris stories trying to drive a truck. So I'm glad we're back to true form here.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, by the way, my brother Chet wants you to harass me a little bit more on the show. He's missing those opportunities. He doesn't feel like you're doing it enough anymore.
To harass you?
Yeah, to give me a hard time.
Well, okay. Yeah. I'll see what I can do. I'm sure there will be ample opportunity.
Those are his favorite parts of the show.
So did you got a new truck and a new trailer. Did you decide on another reefer?
It's another reefer.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you got 2 reefers running now.
Yep.
Did you get another driver yet?
Not yet. We're working on that and getting it close. It's taking me a little longer than I would have anticipated. So over here in the next month, probably starting sometime in January, we'll have some more episodes on the buying of the truck and the trailer process. I've learned a little bit things. So I think a few new things. So I think it'll be good to have an episode that kind of focuses one on each of those.
And I've got to go back and check the episode numbers. I want to say it was in the 40s or so that you talked a lot about the hiring process and what that means for a business owner, the tips and tricks. And like that was all very interesting as well. So
yeah, we may end up having another episode on hiring too, some more things. Every time you do something for a second and third time, you learn more and get a little bit better at it. The process gets refined a little bit more, and so hopefully we'll see some of that.
Yeah, that's why that's why episode 67 is going to be smooth as butter, right, Chris? Okay,
you'd think.
So we're going to get into our topic at hand here, which is personal finances. But this is kind of an extended version of something that you want to do going forward on the show, right?
It is, yeah. I think I've decided I want to start kind of a new segment on the podcast that's going to be a reoccurring thing. Hopefully, every episode, I want to be able to do this. We'll see how it goes, but my intent is to do this every episode, but basically have a tip at the end of each episode, something that we can summarize in one sentence. And they're, knowing me,
and by one sentence, you mean 5 minutes?
Well, yeah, there's going to be one sentence and then maybe a little bit of explanation there, Craig, at the end of it.
That was for you, Chet.
Yeah. Explaining the one sentence, because obviously I can't wrap it in fully in one sentence, but, something that's impactful, that is something that you can implement in your business that will have a good impact on your business.
Yeah. Okay. And so that is something that we'll be doing going forward. But today we're going to do an extended version of that, because this is something that you say is important enough that it merits an entire episode.
It does. And to kind of explain that a little bit more, I started thinking about, okay, well, what do I want my tips to be? And I started listing out a handful of tips, and I realized that a lot of them were finance related. Imagine that, me and finance tips.
And they all said, save your money, save your money, save your money, save your money.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, I thought, okay, reoccurring theme, obviously. So for a while, we're going to talk a lot about finances. And then I started to think about, okay, of all these finance tips that I'm starting to come up with, which one's the most important, the most impactful, because that's what I'd like to start off with. And so that's really what it kind of got me to this point. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, this really is going to involve more than just a
5-minute segment.
Yeah. So we're going to do a full episode on this one and talk a little bit about it, because I really think this is critically important and one of those things that really is going to set your business up to be successful.
And so that is personal finances. As I've alluded to before, yes, we're talking about personal finances today, but how does this relate to being a business owner? I guess I can see how it would make sense that you take many, not all, but many of the principles from your personal finance and extend that into your business. And so you've got to learn those principles. But is there more to it than that?
There is. So the one sentence tip I would say for this one is to make sure your personal finances are in good shape before you start a business. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And you just are alluding to one right there is, your personal finances in reality are kind of like a baby step, right? They're pretty cut and dry. They're pretty simple. If you can't manage your personal finances, then when you jump into a business and try to manage business finances, you're just not going to be successful at it. So, learn how to manage your personal finances. Learn how to live on a budget, learn about a lot of different things like that, learn how to control your spending. Once you can do that successfully on the personal side, you're a lot more likely to be able to do that successfully on the business side. And the other problem is, you see this when businesses, you hear people talking about scaling a business, taking it from small to big and being able to incrementally grow without adding additional problems. Well, if you have an aspect of a business that is broken when it's small and you try to scale it and make it bigger, that problem is just going to get bigger and bigger, and eventually you're going to have this big, huge, massive problem that's almost impossible to solve. if you just don't fix it when it's small.
Okay.
And I think that really truly applies to finances, personal, and then jumping into the business. If you don't have that fixed and working well as you try to grow, you're just going to grow a bigger problem, and it's not going to be healthy for your business.
So in this case, and you're slipping into talking about business finances, but I want to pull it back to personal finances and ask you, what does it actually mean when you say your personal finances need to be in good shape? What is good shape? What is the personal finance hourglass figure, Chris?
Well, in an ideal world, to me, that would mean you have no personal debt. If you can jump into business with no personal debt, that is going to make your life significantly better. And so I would.
Are you talking about houses and cars as well, or just credit cards?
Probably not house, but car, yeah. Credit card for sure. You don't want to have credit card debt. You don't want to have consumer type debt. A house is one of those things. It's harder to do. You should have a mortgage that's very manageable, or a rent payment that is very manageable. But you don't want to have tons of cars that you're paying big payments on. You don't want to have credit cards that you're making payments on, student loans, those kind of things. They'll haunt your business if you have that. And we'll get into a little bit more detail of why as that goes on. But, that limited debt, controlling your expenses, and really more than anything, just learning how to live off of a budget. You talk about, what is a budget? There's a lot of budgeting apps out there that are really good budgeting apps. You hear about the envelope system, where, okay, I'm going to spend $500 in groceries this month. So you put $500 in an envelope. Once that money's gone, it's gone. You need to live with that kind of discipline with a budget. And if you can do that on the personal side of things, it'll make your life a lot easier on the business side.
If you're rigid about a personal budget, then suddenly those monthly finance episodes, when we reference a P&L every month, they make a lot more sense, because that's essentially what we're looking at, is the business's budget and how well we're doing at staying within that. Yeah. In a way. I mean, it's not the same, but it is reminiscent of that idea.
There's a lot of similarities between a budget and your profit and loss statement. Your profit and loss statement is a visualization of everything you've done for a certain time period, typically a month. And your budget is similar. You're trying to predict what you're going to do, for that profit and loss, what your predicted revenues are, what your predicted expenses are, and you're trying to stay within that.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of similarities.
Okay. So, all right, go on. When you're talking about personal finance, how do I get myself to this point if I'm not there?
Well, it just becomes, cleaning those things up. And really, there's a lot of different things out there, a lot of different systems that you can follow to clean up your personal finances. We've talked about Dave Ramsey before in the past, and he's got a lot of good things that he talks about that helps with that. But it's really just having a clean personal finance situation so that it's not causing issues on the business side. And I've got some examples that I want to share as we get a little bit later on in the episode and talk a little bit more about it. But, the real reason behind doing this is because, your finances in reality is one of the most important aspects of business. If you think about it, why do most guys go out of business? It's not because they're providing, especially in the trucking world, it's not because they're providing a poor service. It's not because they had a big repair bill one month, or, because they got in an accident. Those are kind of symptoms to a disease, where the disease is they just don't have good finances. Because if you've got good finances, you can survive a big repair bill. You can survive an accident. You can survive all those things. But if you don't, that kind of thing is just going to completely take you out. So it's like your foundation. Good finances is the foundation of your business.
So does this come back to I make fun of you a lot for it, but, just for fun, because it is great. The whole saving money thing, you talk about saving money all the time. As you're talking about this, I'm having little, the Chris alarm bell going off in my head about saving money. And it sounds like this is essentially, it's getting to understand your situation, even on the personal side. I'm not even just talking about the business side, but understanding how much you can save and when. every month or every paycheck or whatever.
That's a really big part of it. So you've got to, budgeting a certain amount that you plan on saving so that you've got a certain amount set aside for things that happen. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big part of it. But more than that, if you're not controlling your expenses, if you're not being smart about what you're doing, it doesn't matter what happens because you're not going to be able to save because you're not going to have any money left over to save with. So you've got to be careful about that. And one of the things that I really want to bring up, and you think about it, okay, make sure your personal finances are in a good situation. That sounds like a no-brainer, right?
Right.
Yeah, duh.
Of course.
But I don't think people understand how big of an impact their personal finances plays on what happens in their business. And so that's what I really want to kind of try to bring to light and help people see why it is so important that your personal finances are in a good situation. So I want to look at a scenario that I see happen all the time.
Okay.
And it frustrates me because I see guys do this and I'm like, okay, you're going down a path that is going to take you somewhere you don't want to be. And it causes serious issues. So what ends up happening, and like I said, I see this happen time and time again, is a new owner operator, they start their business, and then in a few months, things are going right, they're doing things right, and all of a sudden they start to see, all this money coming into their business checking account. They see $20,000 in revenue coming in 1 month. For most people that start off as an owner operator, that's more money than they've ever seen in their entire life in a month.
Right.
And it is. It's like they see that as a miracle and they all of a sudden think, okay, I see all this money coming in. That's more money than I'm going to be great. I can go out and, do some of these things that have always been my dream that I've wanted to do before and just haven't been able to. So the thing that I see happen all the time is they go out and they go buy their dream pickup truck.
It's always a pickup, right?
It's always a pickup.
Why aren't you guys ever out there buying little Mazdas like me, huh?
They're more manly than you are, Craig.
Apparently. We'll just accept it.
Yeah. I think you drive, it's the trucking industry. I mean, you drive a big semi truck and, you used to be in the big vehicle on the road. So when you go buy your own personal vehicle, you want a big pickup.
You want the F-350.
You want the F-350. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And there will come a time when that kind of a purchase is appropriate, but it's not when you're first starting off owning a trucking company.
So, okay. So describe to me why that is. Like, people go out and buy cars all the time. So what's wrong with the pickup truck?
Well, so for shits and giggles, you might have to bleep that out. I went pickup shopping today.
Oh, today?
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Before I came out here, I decided to go, okay, well, let's go pickup shopping.
Pickup window shopping. You
weren't window shopping.
Buy anything.
Not with the intent of buying anything. Exactly.
Okay.
Just to kind of, one, see how much a brand new pickup costs these days. And two, to see what the payment would be.
Okay.
So I'm not going to tell you the brand. I just went to one dealership because I didn't want to spend I'm not really looking for a pickup truck. But I figured if you were trying to get something, most guys want a diesel engine. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get something that's new and a diesel engine and just a mid-level trim package, so not the fanciest thing out there, but not bare bones either, you're probably going to be spending, by the time taxes, licensing, insurance, and everything is paid for, between $50,000 and $60,000. Oh. It's a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. My heart just skipped a beat.
You going to be okay?
No, I'll be all right.
All right.
Yes.
So
I love my Mazda, Chris.
let's just yeah, that's a good reason to love your Mazda. Let's just say $55,000.
Okay.
And I worked out the payments on that, and the payments are going to be north of $1,000. So now all of a sudden, if you follow this scenario and you follow this path that I've seen far too many people go down, brand new company, you go out and you spend $55,000 for a truck, all of a sudden you have $1,000 truck payment that you have to make every month, right? Well, that's on my personal side, right? That's not going to affect the business.
Right, but you did it because you were excited about what was going on in the business.
And now what's going to have to happen every month with that business money?
You're adding a line item.
You're essentially adding a line item because now you've got to take, without fail, $1,000 out of your business every month to make that pickup truck payment.
For 5 years.
for 5 years or 7. But that was actually a 6-year loan.
Oof.
Was the little north of $1,000. So 6 years, all of a sudden you're having to make $1,000 payment every month, come rain, snow, sleet, or hail, right? No matter what. And that's just a lot of money to be tied to. You think about it. Remember what happened to me last month?
Yeah, there's the giant repairs, right?
Giant repair bill. So just last month, a little over $6,000 in repairs and maintenance. So imagine if all of a sudden, things are going really well, and I come up on this month where I have to make a $6,000 repair bill, and I still have to take the $1,000 out of my account to pay for my truck payment. It's one of those things that just makes it that much harder for your business to be able to thrive, because now you're forced to take all this money out of it every month.
Amazing. So what do you just recommend? All right, don't spend anything for the first year or whatever. What's our remedy here for the pickup truck scenario?
I think so the problem is too, a lot of guys, when that happens, they don't just go out and buy the pickup truck. They all of a sudden start eating out more. They start, just their household expenses just kind of start to go through the roof. They get out of control because they see all this money coming in. So the truck payment's the big piece of it, but there's a lot of other little things that they have a tendency to do. And so, what's happening here is, have you ever heard of the saying that the tail is wagging the dog?
Yeah.
So for people that haven't heard that, that basically means that, people use that saying when there's something that's unimportant or less important becomes too important and controls the bigger picture. So this is a perfect example of that. The relatively unimportant pickup truck is wagging or controlling your much more important business decisions and what you're doing in the business. Because now your hands are tied. You have to take that money out every month to make the payment.
Right.
And you get stuck in it. It's not like you can just go sell the pickup truck because for the first 2 or 3 years, you're going to be upside down in that pickup truck. And you can't just go sell it and get rid of it because, you're upside down and you owe more than it's worth. That's what happens when you buy new vehicles most of the time. So it's that truck payment is wagging the dog.
And so, you've talked a lot about how for 2 decades you drove some little sedan.
Yeah, not quite. 16 years I drove a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking everybody to do the same thing, exactly that same. It's not like you have to go that long. But the longer you're able to go, the more money you've got freed up in the business that you can use to grow the business and make the business better and get to a point where you can afford to go buy that truck and you can truly afford it. And it's not going to be impacting the decisions you make on the business.
Right. And, if you're able to do that, Chris, I'm going to throw something out there. You disagree with me if you want to, but I'm going to go out and say you could save money if you're smart about your business finances and smart about your personal finances as well. You could save enough money to buy that $55,000 truck in cash in half the time that it would have taken you to pay it off in financing.
Yeah, absolutely. You absolutely can. That's the right way to do it. I've talked a little bit about in the past that, there's a couple things that kind of play into this that I think is the smart way to do things is one, when you first become an owner operator, if you are getting paid 50 cents a mile, then you continue to pay yourself 50 cents a mile and you don't take any of the company profits for a while until you've got a good emergency fund saved up. And then once that's done, then you make a switch and, you can start taking some of that profit at that point out, setting it aside and using it for purchases that aren't going to tie you down. So it's not like, okay, I've got $10,000 saved up now past my emergency fund. I've got another $10,000. I'm going to go use that and make a really big down payment on that truck. Well, guess what? You still have
a giant payment.
So you just use that profit money and you save it up. And then when you've got enough money to pay cash for that truck, then you go buy it. That's the smartest way to do it. And that's the best path that's going to cause you the least amount of heartache and pain later on down the road.
And that's one way to do it, right? If you have another vehicle that can last you that long, great. That's the best way to do it, but it's not the only way, right? It could just be, hey, look, your business is new. When you've been going for 5 or 6 years, you can go buy that truck. But for now, why don't you go buy the smaller used car that you can get for $15,000 instead of $60,000, right? Sometimes you have to buy a car.
You do. You need a mode of transportation. But the other thing that, I kind of think puts this into perspective, if you're a new owner operator, you're going to be on the road 20 plus days a month, which means you're only going to be home, 10 to, 5 to 10 days a month. And you're going to have this $55,000 truck sitting in your driveway 90% of the time. Is it really worth it that early on to go spend that kind of money on something that you're going to use for a handful of hours? Imagine how much you're going to be paying an hour to use that truck.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
And I mean, we're kind of harping on about this $55,000 truck, but I guess it's the principle of the thing. It's not just about the pickup truck. This could apply to any number of things. And it could come down to, like you were alluding to earlier, Chris, your general expenditures. When you start seeing all this cash coming in, you just become less disciplined, right?
You do.
I don't, who cares? Yeah, okay, fine. I went over the budget $50 last month, and now I'm not paying attention to it at all because I know I've got money coming in, or at least I think I do, until that one $6,000 repair month hits.
Yeah. It's almost kind of really easy to become immune to that because, let's say you're just as a company driver, you see, just to throw numbers out there, you see $5,000 a month coming into your checking account. Now all of a sudden you go from $5,000 to $20,000 a month. You're working in all these bigger numbers. It becomes really easy to become numb to those, $500,000 expenditures because you see that coming out of your checking account on the business side all the time. Those big expenses, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just, another $1,000 on the personal side, no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And that's why you just have to be disciplined. You have to be intentional with your money and just not get numb to those bigger expenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe I'll just transition a little bit into this, Craig, kind of use an experience that I've kind of gone through over the last 6 months or so in a couple of my businesses to kind of illustrate a little bit more how if you're not careful, those personal expenditures you do on the personal side of things can really have a negative impact on your business. So in the last 6 months in 2 of my businesses, I've started complete new divisions.
Ooh, that sounds like a lot of work.
It is, and it's almost like starting a whole new business, right? We've had to hire new people, we've had to buy new equipment, we've had to subscribe to new services. So all of a sudden, I've got all these extra expenses coming up because we've started these 2 new divisions. All that costs money, and it takes a long time. There's a ramp up period, like starting any other kind of business. There's a ramp up period before you start seeing revenue come in, and even to the point where you're breaking even. So for a while, you're losing money. Well, think about it. If you're sitting at that crossroads and you're like, okay, I want to start this brand new division. I know it's going to cost me some money in the short term to get up there. Is it something that I should do? Well, all of a sudden, if I've got this $1,000 truck payment I've got to make every month, am I going to be able to make that truck payment and be able to float these new expenses I've got coming on? Am I going to be able to do that? And in a lot of situations, you can be like, I just don't feel comfortable doing it. And it's going to prevent you from jumping on good opportunities. And that's, I've seen that happen time and time again in my businesses over time is if you don't have a good personal financial situation, it all of a sudden impacts business decisions that you're going to make, and you're going to lose out on opportunities. And so because my personal finances are in good shape, when it came time to make those decisions, do I start these 2 new divisions? I was like, yeah, I can do that because I haven't encumbered myself with personal expenses that are going to force me to take more money out of the business than I really should be.
Yeah, absolutely. This, this is reminding me of, and let me give you an analogy here. Your personal finances, if they are in order, it kind of gives you more leverage over life. And if anybody's ever, people are out there listening to us and they're still working for a big company. They're still driving for a big company. Anybody who's ever been an employee can recognize this concept of if you are in a good position financially, you feel more secure and able to negotiate with your employer for more money or take a different job, or in this case, take the plunge and start a business or start a new division of your business, whatever. If you're in a bad position financially and suddenly you are psychologically and monetarily dependent on your current position, then it gives you a lot less power in those situations just for yourself. It's a deep concept that can go a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. That's a great way of looking at it. That's any way you look at it just creates a bad problem. And it's the same thing for a trucking company. When it comes time to, if you've got a new lane that's coming up or a shipper that wants to do business with you, but you need to add another truck, trailer, and driver to be able to make it work. And if you've got a personal financial mess or, debt that, that is too high, you're going to look at it and say, well, I don't feel comfortable because I don't know if I'm going to be able to float my employee's wage for a while. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep making the truck and trailer payment and insurance payment if a driver quits for 2 weeks and the truck's not on the road. You've got to have as much freedom from the personal side to be able to make those business expenses. And it really is. It's liberating when you've got that and you can make those kind of decisions because they're the right decisions to make, and you're not with your hands tied because of some dumb financial decisions you've made on the personal side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shall we summarize this, Chris, and kind of wrap it up? Or was that our summary?
No, well, I think let's summarize it. I've got another analogy that I want to use.
I hope maybe that should be the title of this episode: financial analogies.
Yeah, they're coming out of the woodworks, aren't they? You've heard the it's not really a nursery rhyme, but the kids, I heard this a lot when I was a kid, the story of the golden goose.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a couple different versions of it.
There are a couple different versions of it, but the one that I like the most is you've got this golden goose that lays golden eggs, right?
Right.
And a old couple finds this goose or has this goose that lays golden eggs, and they could use the golden eggs to buy things, and they started to think, well, if the goose is laying golden eggs, there must be an even bigger nugget inside the goose.
So they kill the goose.
So they kill the goose, and there's nothing there, and they've now killed the goose, and it's not laying golden eggs, and they're out of things. Well, the same thing happens when you've got that truck payment, and you've got to pull that money out of your business every month. You're essentially starving that golden goose, and eventually that golden goose is going to die, and now you really can't make your truck payment. You can't make your house payment. You can't buy groceries. You can't buy all these things, and so you got to keep that golden goose alive, and you got to protect that golden goose, protect the business, and the business will take care of you. If you don't take care of the business, if you don't protect it, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And making those kind of dumb personal financial situations is the quickest way to kill that golden goose and not protect your business and damage your business.
There you go. That was a good wrap up. I'm glad I asked.
Good.
Well, very good. And I hope that people enjoyed this concept, and if they have any other questions or comments, or if you want some clarification or more analogies,
or if
maybe
you have really good tips for somebody who can't drive an automatic truck, let me know that.
Yeah, give us your automatic tips. Absolutely. Go to haulinassetsllc.com or Facebook. Find us there as well, and we would love to hear from you. It's really great interacting with all of you. I know, Chris, you do that more than I do on social media.
Yep.
But I do like popping in there every once in a while on Facebook too. So yeah, we'd love to see you there. And I guess we will see you all in 2021. And I'm looking forward to seeing what December's finances look like after the $6,000 train wreck that was November.
I will put it this way. December should be better than November was.
Well, okay.
All indications are looking good.
That's great. So we'll see you all then. Thank you so much for listening all through this year and beyond. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you next week.